During the last decade or so of my mom's life, she and I would end up frequently in conversations about the past, particularly the past of her raising children. And the conversations normally came because she was perturbed with one of her grandkids or one of her grandnephews. She didn't like what they had done, thought they had made some bad choices. And she would say to me, "Bill, I never had any trouble with you kids." "Really, Mom? Can I remind you of the history?" Now, of course, you didn't have any trouble with me. I mean, I'm really easy to get along with. I mean, never a problem with me. But Patty, my sister Patty, was a pain. She tested your patience day after day. And Susan and Patty fought all the time, and they fought with you, and I'd run to another room because I didn't like the fighting. And you didn't have any trouble with your kids? Mom, can you say amnesia? We human beings, or denial, yeah. It just ain't a river in Egypt. It is a real thing. We human beings have a tendency to forget, especially what we want to forget. And by the way, we Americans are known for a wide variety of reasons at being particularly gifted at forgetting. We want to go forward. We don't have time to be tied down by remembering the past. You know, it's only been 4 years ago, 2020, that we experienced the horror of COVID. And now many of us have forgotten how horrible that was, the time when bodies were being stored in refrigeration units because there were just too many to deal with. Those were awful days. But we're quick to forget them. Now, Jesus is having a conversation with some folks who have forgotten. The Gospel of John describes these folks as Jews. I wish the text would have been translated Judeans, that is, Jews from Judah and Jerusalem, not Galilee, where Jesus is from. The book of John, from which our gospel reading is coming today, is probably a serious dialogue between two different sets of Jews. It's not a dialogue, as we might think, between Jews and Christians. John wants the Jews who reject Jesus to change their ways. And the Jews in today's text, the Judeans in today's story, are said to be Jews who had believed in Jesus. They had believed in him, but they didn't remain with him. They had given up on Jesus because the going got tough, which is what was happening in John's community. The Christian Jews were being kicked out of the synagogue. And so John is trying to get those folks not to give in, but to remain with the story of Jesus. And to these folks, Jesus in John today says, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." If you hang in there with me, if you go to the deeper places with me, you will experience the truth. And in the Gospel of John, the truth is Jesus himself, and you will have freedom. Well, these folks who had followed Jesus react to Jesus' words, and they say this: "Well, we are descendants of Abraham." In other words, we have the right pedigree. We come from the right stock. We come from the right family. We have status and value because we're from the right group. And besides Jesus, we've never been slaves to anyone. So how can you say to us, we'll be made free? What do we need to be made free from? Mom, can you say amnesia? You are in Jerusalem right now where there's a freedom festival going on, the festival of the booths. If you were enslaved, why are you here for a party? If you weren't enslaved, why are you here for a party that helps celebrates that you have been set free? Did you forget? Did you forget about the slavery in Egypt or the oppression by the Assyrians and the Babylonians? Free, huh? You're just like those Americans who think they're free because they can do whatever they want whenever they want to, say whatever they want, and most importantly of all, choose among 5,000 options for what kind of toothpaste you will get from Myers. Free you Americans are, free to buy whatever you want, and yet you have one of the highest addiction rates in the world. And in the developed world, you have the highest rate of gun violence. You all forget or fail to understand how bound you really are. And Jesus said to those who had believed in him, very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. You think you're free, huh? You think you have the right pedigree. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're addicted. You're addicted to sin. If you weren't, why do you keep doing it? If you're so doggone free, why do you keep doing the same destructive things? Why do you keep turning your back on the love that God is revealing in Jesus? And that's John's concern today. Sometimes the biggest problem we have in life is that we just can't admit the truth. And those who live well with addictions realize that. They get better only when they tell the truth. Jesus today says, the truth will set you free. Now, he's talking about himself here, but I think his words can apply to life in general. The truth sets free. The lies we tell ourselves only serve to entangle and bind us. And the truth is, according to Jesus today, is that we're all bound up in sin. And running from that truth doesn't help anyone, especially we who don't tell the truth. Now, Paul has a different take on this thing, a sin thing, than does John. But as he struggles to make his point about how the Gentiles, who once were thought not to be a part of the people of God, can become a part of the people of God, he reminds his readers that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Nobody is left out of the sin club. We're all included. So don't go telling a lie to yourself that you have a special place because thankfully you're just not as bad as the neighbors, or you're not as messed up as the people who sit next to you in the pew. Sorry, you are messed up, but just in a different way. So get off your high judgmental horse. By the way, initially, you may experience that news as bad news. I know I do. In some ways, it is. But I got to tell you, it's fundamentally good news. We're all in this mess together. Every one of us are in this mess together. And when you grasp that, not only do you become more compassionate to other people, but you become more honest with yourself. And honesty is generally the means for getting better. Until you realize that it isn't everybody else's fault, until you know that sometimes you are the problem, until you say that you have many reasons to seek forgiveness, you will stay stuck in your mess. Mom, amnesia doesn't serve you or us well. Your family was just as messed up as those Catholic members of your family who you always criticize for doing stuff that you didn't like. I have to tell you, though, Mom, and everybody else, that the good news doesn't stop with our telling the truth about our sin. That good news is a stop along the way toward the really good news. And this is what I like to talk about. Paul puts the really good news this way: since all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, they are now justified by his grace as a gift through the messiness of the cross of Jesus. In the cross of Jesus, God gets messy with our real lives and yet embraces us with love, unconditional love. Again, Paul is dealing with how the Gentiles, who once were thought not to be a part of the people of God, are now considered an integral part of the people of God. And his conclusion is that they become a part of the people of God through God's gift, just as the Jews have been given a special status through God's gift. Here is the secret to the power of the Reformation. Here is the secret to the Lutheran understanding of the faith. Here is the truth that will make you free. The most important things in life do not come from you. They are not a matter of your accomplishment or your achievement. Forgiveness is not earned or paid for. Your worth as a human being is not something you get by how much money or education you have, or how well you do in people's polls, or how moral or rebellious you are. Your worth doesn't come as a result of your vices or your virtues. Your worth is sheer gift. You were baptized into the story of Jesus, into the messiness of his death, and into the gloriousness of his resurrection. And you came out of those waters as beloved children of God. And that is who you are. And of course you're messed up. Join the human race. Of course you're addicted to sin. But you, broken as you are embraced by a love that will not let you go. Paul puts it this way: by grace you have been saved. Mom, here's the bottom line. What matters most in life is grace. It is grace that gives us life. It is grace that sets us free. It is grace that gives us permission to tell the truth even to ourselves. It is grace that connects us to God and to other people. All have sinned, but all are justified by God's grace as a gift. We are not only in the chaotic, messy sea together, we are also in the ocean of grace together. So, when people are busy trying to tear us all apart, resist. Join in, jump into the ocean of grace and take a long, 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 very long swim. Amen.